Good morning everyone and welcome to the class. Today we are going to do a beautiful poem written by Alfred Lord Tennyson, and the title of the poem is Break, Break, Break from the reader book of class 8th. This short poem carries the emotional impact of a person reflecting on the loss of someone he or she cared for. Written in 1834, right after the death of Tennyson's friend Arthur Henry Hallam, the poem was published in 1842. Now, this poem is an elegy that describes Tennyson's feelings of loss after his best friend Henry Arthur Hallam died and his feelings of isolation while at Lincolnshire. Now let me explain what an elegy is. An elegy is a sad poem, usually written to praise and express sorrow for someone who is dead. The purpose of this kind of poem is to express feelings rather than tell a story or express anything else. Here you have the beautiful poem before you. The poem has a sad tone. Let me read it out to you and you enjoy. Break, break, break. Break, break, break on thy cold grey stones, O sea. And I would that my tongue could utter the thoughts that arise in me. Oh well for the fisherman's boy, that he shouts with his sister at play. Oh well for the sailor lad, that he sings in his boat on the bay. And the stately ships go on to their haven under the hill. But oh for the touch of a vanished hand, and the sound of a voice that is still. Break, break, break at the foot of thy crags, O sea, but the tender grace of a day that is dead will never come back to me. Now let us have the stanza-wise explanation of the poem. Let me read out the first stanza once again. Break, break, break on thy cold grey stones, O sea, and I would that my tongue could utter the thoughts that arise in me. The sea water is dashing at the shore. It's dashing at the stones near the shore. In the first stanza, the sea is battering the stone. The speaker appears frustrated, sad and depressed that the sea can keep moving and making noise while he is unable to utter his thoughts. The sea shouts, it vents its energy. The poet is sad and depressed. The sea's loud roar, its ability to vent its energy, is something that the poet lacks. The sea is able to express itself through dashing its water at the shore, but the poet can't utter his thoughts. So he wishes if he could also express his sad thoughts in some way. The second stanza begins. Oh well for the fisherman's boy, that he shouts with his sister at play. Oh well for the sailor lad, that he sings in his boat on the bay. Tennyson compares himself with happy people around him. In the second stanza we see he expresses distance between himself and the happy people playing or singing where they are. He finds people are joyful whether they are alone or together. They possess joy and fulfillment, but he does not. He envies the sailor who is singing and the brother and sister who are talking to each other. The brother and sister have each other to talk, to laugh and share their thoughts with. And the sailor has his boat, but the poet is alone. They have reason to voice pleasure, to express their happiness, but he does not. Why? Because the poet finds no one with him. The third stanza. And the stately ships go on to their haven under the hill. But oh, for the touch of a vanished hand and the sound of a voice that is still. The poet sees the ships moving to their haven and are contented. In the third stanza, the poet sees the stately ships, the grand ships, moving to their haven under the hill. Haven here means a harbor, or we can also see it as a safe place. So the poet sees that the stately ships are moving to their haven, to the harbor, to a safe place, either to the port or over to the horizon. Either way, they seem contented because they have a destination, they have a place to go. But graves are not pleasant heavens, he says. The mounded graves is no pleasant heaven in contrast. It shows the end of an activity. Then further he says, there is no more hand to touch, no more voice to hear. And again, the poet is caught up in his internal thoughts, in his depressed, sad thoughts. Vanished hands in this stanza refers to the hands of the poet's friend. It has become invisible because his friend is dead. The hand cannot be seen anymore. Voice that is still refers to the sound of the poet's friend. It cannot be heard anymore. And these are the reasons why the poet is extremely sad and depressed and feels lonely. Fourth and the last stanza. Break, break, break at the foot of thy crags, O sea, but the tender grace of a day that is dead will never come back to me. Once again, the poet repeats the dashing, breaking of the waves at the cliff. The waves come again and again and hit the shore. They keep on doing this activity. But for him, there is no coming back of the dead. There is no return of the dead. Just the reoccurring pain of loss. Just the reappearing, continuous pain of loss. Now, here in this stanza, tender grace of the day refers to his beautiful memories of the days which are gone. The days which he spent with his friend. So only memories of those beautiful days are left with him. Now let's have a look at the poetic devices that are seen in this poem. First of all, we have an example of metaphor and the stately ships. The ship is a metaphor of life. Second one is personification. A day that is dead. Day has been personified. Paradox. Now, let me first explain you what a paradox is. It's a statement that seems self-contradictory or absurd, but in reality expresses a possible truth. If we have a look at these two examples, the touch of a vanished hand. So here we see a contradiction in the statement. A hand that is vanished cannot touch, right? And the second example, the voice that is still, the voice that can be heard. So the voice which is still, which is dead, which is no more, cannot be heard. So these two are the examples of paradox in the poem. Then repetition of the word break, break, break. Alliteration, the repetition of sounds. Stately ships, S, the sound of sa has been repeated. Then haven under the hill, ha sound has been repeated. And the rhyme scheme of the poem is A, B, C, B. With this, we come to the end of the poem. Let us recapitulate. Let me summarize the poem before you. We see that Break, Break, Break is a short poem dealing with loss. The poem opens and continues to speak in a dark tone. It moves in a negative manner around the inevitable phenomenon that is death, and reflects the poet's sorrow caused by the death of a closed one. We see that this poem is an apt example, a perfect example of an elegy. Elegy, a kind of poetry based on lamenting a loss or loss of a close relation. So the poem closes with the poet saying, "A day that is dead shall never come back to me." So the poet shows hopelessness in the end. The poem began and we saw that the sea is breaking on the cold grey stones before the speaker, before the poet, and he laments that he cannot give voice to his thoughts, he cannot express himself, he cannot express his thoughts. He sees the fisherman's boy shouting with his sister while they play, and also the young sailor singing in his boat. But the speaker cannot express such joy because he is alone. Other ships travel silently into port, their haven under the hill, and this observation seems to remind the poet of his disappearance of someone he cared for, disappearance of his friend, his loved one. So no longer can he feel the person's touch or hear the person's voice. Unlike the waves which noisily break on the rocks as they repeatedly come in, the tender grace of bygone days will never return to him. The poet would never be able to see his friend again, spend time with him or talk to him. Only beautiful memories of his friend are left with him. I hope you all enjoyed the poem, understood it well. Thank you so much.